everyone. My name is Tracy and I'm with SweetBayLane.com and welcome to my YouTube channel. Today's project is going to be a very useful piece of home decor, especially with summer right around the corner. We're going to be creating a solid wood personalized serving tray with a bit of a nautical theme to it. This will be perfect for serving your guests beachside, poolside, or just sipping sweet tea on your front porch with friends and neighbors. Okay, so let's get started on today's project. What we're going to need is a 1x4 piece of common pine board, and then I'm going to be using this little piece of, it actually comes in common pine, but this I believe is like a birch or something. I just have it on hand and we're going to be using that. And we're going to get started here in cutting our board. What we're going to do is we're going to cut this board into 3 sections, 18 inches long, and then we're going to adhere them together with a strong industrial carpenter wood glue, and that will be the base of our tray. Okay, and now as you'll see, we have our 3 pieces of wood, and we're going to line them up the best way that fits together. And then we are just going to glue the edges. While we have our saw out and ready, we're going to go ahead and put them together, and then we're just going to measure our board. Measure from side to side, and I'm showing this is just at 10.5 inches. So we'll take our board here and we will measure 10.5 inches. Come over to our saw, line it up there. And that will lay right across there, perfect for the handle to attach to. Pieces even. To do is we're going to glue the pieces together, and I've got this Gorilla wood glue, which any wood glue will work. Elmer's is just as good. Some people prefer that over this. I just have this on hand, so I thought I would use it. And we're going to push them together there. We'll get this side. You just want a little bit of glue, not too much, because you'll have run over. It'll be gushing out the sides. Then you make sure everything's even at the end here. Make sure everything's even. You're going to push them together. And you can just let them sit by themselves without any clamp, but I just prefer to use a clamp. Kind of keeps them in place a little better. You just adjust them as you clamp it down. And you'll want to make sure that you have a piece of, this is freezer paper, but you just want to make sure you have something underneath your project, just so it doesn't glue to what you're doing your project on. So there you have that nice and straight. Then you'll take the sides where the handles will be attached, the pieces of wood, You'll put lots of glue on this one. And then I've just measured 1 inch from each end, and I will just line those up. And you want to have lots of glue on this one. Let's see, I might not have enough. Yep, I didn't have enough on the center one. So you want to make sure you have enough glue. Push that down. You get the other one. You put this one down. Like I said, those are 1 inch from the edge. Make sure you get them down good and firm. Whoops, that one slipped a little, so you want to be careful of that. And what I do is I will sometimes clamp them down, or I also have, just 1 minute, I also have these sash weights that I love to use to hold those down. They work perfectly. They have a little flat side there. You just get on the flat side and you put them on there. Make sure everything's lined up perfectly. And now you will just let those dry. Okay, so we've come back out to our piece here, and it has dried completely. I did let this dry for a few hours. You don't really have to let it dry that long, but I like to get a good solid drying time to it. So that's usually maybe a few hours. But it starts drying immediately once you start gluing it, so that's a good thing. And what we're going to do now is we are going to sand the edges clean, get off any little splinters, and we're going to sand the center of the tray, because what I'm going to do is I'm going to paint or stain, I haven't decided yet, the tray, and then I'm going to put a stencil in the center. So now the piece is sanded smooth. We'll get all the little dust off of there with a damp cloth before we paint it. And the center is nice and smooth, and once it's painted or stained, it's going to be the perfect surface for that stencil. Okay, now we're back in the studio, and our next step is going to be staining the board. And what I've chosen to stain this board in is a light silver gray, and I think it's going to give it that beautiful driftwood appearance. I'm going to apply 2 coats, and once I get both coats applied, I'll let that dry completely, and then I'm just going to sand it with 100 grit sandpaper to make that wood grain pop off of the tray. That will also prepare it for the stencils and the painting. I'm also going to be applying rope handles. How cute is that? And I purchased these eye straps, stainless steel eye straps, and I think that's going to add a nice nautical touch as well. And to embellish the tray, I'm going to be using 2 stencils over each other. It's a beautiful technique, and I'm going to use a crab for the background stencil, and then I'm going to be using this beautiful rope with an initial in the center. Okay, now we have applied the 2 coats of stain, as you'll see here, and now what I'm going to do is I'm going to just rough this up a little bit with some sandpaper just to make the wood grain pop out, makes it look a little more nautical and rustic. Okay, now that we have our tray sanded, and as you can see, that wood grain really just popped with that sanding, I'm going to apply my first stencil, which will be the bottom stencil. And for my nautical themed tray, I've chosen a blue crab. Now, you can also choose a starfish, a mermaid, a lobster, but for today's project, I've chosen a blue crab. So I'm going to just peel off my stencil. And I'm going to line it up. Try and center it in my middle of my tray. You can measure or you can just eyeball. If you're good at eyeballing things like that, you can go ahead and just eyeball it. And I think that looks pretty good. That looks like it's right in the center of my tray. Okay, so now that we have that first stencil stuck down, we're going to just peel off the transfer tape. And know these designs can be found on sweetbaylane.com if you do not have a stencil cutter. Okay, so now we have our crab stencil adhered to our tray. We're going to take the white. I'm just going to use this little piece of scrap paper here. And we'll take the white paint with our dauber and we'll just lightly tap in there the white. And the lighter the hand, the less paint bleed you'll have with your stencils. And you want to put just a light coat, the first coat, that kind of seals the edges. And that also helps to prevent the paint bleed underneath the stencil, which cuts down your touch-up time. And you can see how it's just going on perfectly. That's what that sanding the surface beforehand helps to really prep it to accept the paint. Okay, and now that our crab design has completely dried, I'm going to just hit it with my sanding block, just a little bit on the edges, just to kind of give it that rustic, weathered look. It will also help it blend in with the background of the distressed gray stain. And next we're going to apply our monogram rope design. Now you want to make sure this is centered, so I'm just going to take my ruler here and just measure. Okay, now that we have that design down, we're just going to peel the transfer tape away from the stencil. And then I will take my navy blue, which is a beautiful true navy blue. I think it's going to look amazing. Take my dauber. So now we have 2 coats of navy blue paint on our personalized rope stencil, and we are going to peel this away to expose the design. Okay, and as you'll see, we've removed all the stencil material, and that exposes both stencils, the one in the background being the whitewashed crab with a little bit of distressing to it. And then we have our beautiful nautical rope wreath with our personalization in the center. Now I'm going to take this outside and I'm going to spray it with a clear coat, and that'll make everything just pop even more. Okay, the clear coat has dried and we've brought it back into the studio, and now what we're going to do is we're going to attach the rope handles. Now I went ahead and purchased these stainless steel eye straps, and I also have created these cute little adorable rope handles. So my first step is going to be just starting the screw holes. Now I went ahead and took the liberty of measuring ahead of time, and I'm going to have my handles 2 inches from each side. And that's where I will put my eye straps. So now that we have the 2-inch measurement, I go ahead and I will put my eye strap down, and I will just mark each place where I want my eye strap to be attached. And you'll see I've done it on both sides. And then I'm going to follow up and go in and just start each screw hole ahead of time. Especially since we are so close to the edge of our project, I wouldn't want to do this with a drill because that's going to split the wood. Okay, so now we have our holes pre-drilled, so to speak, and we're going to go ahead, and this is how the eye strap will be attached, and then the screws will go in there. But what we want to do is put the rope in first, and you'll see now how screwing those screws in and starting that hole is going to come in really handy. Okay, that's nice and tight. Look at how adorable that's going to be. Oh my goodness, now I just can't wait to get these on here. Okay, we'll do the same thing over here. We'll start our screws. Okay, and there we have our finished tray. Well, that wraps it up for today's beautiful nautical inspired serving tray, and I hope you enjoyed this video as much as I enjoyed bringing it to you. And if you did, feel free to share with your family and friends, and also don't forget to hit the subscribe button to receive notifications of future DIY projects. I will also be including in the description box below a link to purchase this beautiful serving tray along with other beautifully finished home decor.